I think there are two aspects that negotiators need to take into account. The first is the cost of inaction. I think there has been a lot of conversation around the cost of inaction, but if you take air pollution in China, for example, coming from industrial activities like power generation and aluminium smelting, things like that, the cost of inaction for them in terms of air pollution is perhaps between 5 to 10% of GDP lost through healthcare costs and other issues. So whilst there is a debate about what the action should be, let's be very clear that there is a cost to inaction. So that's the first point. The second point is that we lack credible success stories about action. So when governments are thinking about imposing carbon policies on the economy, we lack a clear trajectory of what success actually looks like in an energy transition. There are examples around the world of, there are 42 jurisdictions and nations that have imposed some form of carbon tax, ranging from $1 to $131, according to our evidence at S&P. And we've seen some very good success stories in the mix, and I feel that there should be more discussion around what success actually looks like and citing those tangible examples rather than a position of uncertainty, which is not good for business and is not good for economies. Yeah, so I was part of the high-level expert group on sustainable finance, which was a group put together by the European Commission to investigate interventions into regulations in the financial economy, in the finance sector. And that has resulted in the EU Sustainable Finance Action Plan, which proposes a wide-ranging raft of measures designed to increase transparency, be very clear about the duty of investor, which is to incorporate climate risks, increase transparency along the investment chain, and to increase transparency from people who are seeking capital. And all of these measures are designed to flow capital from the owners of capital to those who require the capital. In Europe alone, there is $180 billion of unfunded energy transition and climate transition required. So the intention behind these policy interventions, which we have been informing, is really to increase transparency and reduce the friction so that capital can flow towards the right outcomes. So I think within the private sector there is huge ambition, and so therefore the private sector needs to be a core part of those NDCs. One thing that we saw that was missing in the previous set of NDCs was a very clear statement of the capital required for transition and some ideas around who should provide that capital and what those transition pathways look like by different economic sectors and business activities. So at S&P we provide data and tools to allow policymakers to analyze those transitions and to analyze both risks and opportunities. Because I think that's a critical part of this transition, is that we understand the role of the private sector. In the last set of NDCs, for China, 85% was, within the context of their NDC, 85% will be required from capital markets and only 15% from the Chinese government. And that is not uncommon. So if it's such a large amount of capital that's required from capital markets, we should be clear about the role of capital markets in those NDCs.